What's up, everybody? Justin here. Hope you're having a good Friday night. Was going to do a little workshop on coloring in Bambu Studio. Bambu Studio is part of the Bambu Labs software, and there are many features in that software, but for people with AMSs, people that have the P1S, the X1C, the A1 Mini, or the A1, you're able to do multicolor if you have an AMS unit. So there's been several requests to do a video on how to accomplish that in Bambu Studio. So I was going to do a couple quick examples, show you some tips and tricks, and that way you can also do multicolor prints very similar to these. Let me switch this cam here. So you can do multicolor prints very similar to these. Hey, Pats fan. Good to see you too, buddy. So these are multicolor prints done with an X1 carbon with an AMS. Now I actually have two AMS units, so I'm able to do up to 8 colors in one print. You can connect up to 8 AMS four AMS units to a single printer, which allows you to do up to 16 colors in one print. Now you have different types of multicolor prints. You have prints that actually print multiple colors in one print, like this. So it prints the white first, then it goes to the gray, then it goes to the black, and then it goes back to the white, and it keeps swapping colors until you have a finished product. Same with this. This is a multicolor print, only 2 colors. This would be a 2-color print as well, and another 2-color print. Here, this little guy has multiple colors. So you have the gray, the white, the orange, the black. So there's 4 colors in this little guy, in this little flexi. This bike, this Tron light cycle, is technically a multicolor print, but it's done in a fashion that you print different parts in different colors. So you don't have to have an AMS unit to create something like this. So you'd print the wheel blue, you'd print the fuselage blue, you'd print each of these windows separately in black, this window separately in black, this in gray, the chassis in gray, the rear wheel in blue, the rear wheel inserts in black, and then you snap them together or glue them all together. So there are ways to do it without an AMS unit. You can also use what's called pauses, where you can have a model and you can put the pause inside the order of how it prints, and then you can switch out filament and continue printing with a different color. So there's several different ways you can accomplish it. This is also a multicolor print. So you have the red, the gold, the white, the black. So that's another 4 color. But in order to do that, you need an AMS unit, or you need to put in pauses and then manually swap out the filament colors as those pauses come up. So how do you paint something in Bambu Labs Studio to do multicolor? Hey, Gap. Good to see you, buddy. So to do that, we're going to switch over to the All right. So to do the multicolor prints, we're going to switch over to this other screen. And I'm just going to make this large here so y'all can see me. So I have a Huron tablet, and it's very similar to a Wacom tablet, but it is a screen tablet. You can get a Huron tablet. This is a 2K 16-inch for about $500. You can get larger ones if you like, but this is the one that I use to color most of my prints. You don't have to have a tablet. You can do it with a mouse. The mice that I use are the Logitech MX Master 3 mice. They're very accurate, up to 8,000 DPI, I think is the accuracy on them. You just download the software, you can put it right in there, and you're good to go. So you can do this with a mouse if you want. I'm going to be using my tablet and a mouse in conjunction to paint these. So here we got some pretty recognizable characters. These are the Simpson characters. When you bring in STLs into Bambu Labs, some of them will have color if they're set up for an AMS already. Some of them will not. Some of them will come in white, just like this. So you have your colors over here on the left-hand side. And these are all the colors that I have in my AMS currently. So they may not match what I'm actually going to paint necessarily, but it at least gives you an idea. So I'm going to click on Homer here, and then we're going to go up here to this little paint bucket, and it says color painting. And it's going to give me all the colors that I currently have in my AMS. And you can click shortcut keys like it's showing, you know, the number 3, so on and so forth, to quickly switch back and forth. Let me get rid of these warnings here. So I'm just going to zoom in here, and you can do that with your mouse wheel. You can do that with your tablet if you have a button set up for it. And you can see you really can't see much detail when you first hop into this. So what you need to do is you need to set up a color. Now I just set up white just because that's just what I picked. You can set up black. You can set up any color you want. So I'm going to go, there's several different ways to do it. You can do it with the circle tool, which will literally take whatever color you select, and let's see here. Let me grab this color, and you can just draw it in there. Now, obviously, that's not accurate. That's for more fine detail work, so I'm going to erase that. The next tool you have is called the sphere. The sphere is going to be similar to the circle, but there are some changes to it. So I'm going to zoom in here. Let me make sure I got my buttons set up. Let's see here. So we're going to zoom in, and we're just going to rotate this. And as you can see, it's very hard to see where the details are. But what this sphere does is it will take, I'm going to do it on this edge so you can kind of see what it does here. So as you can see, this is a flat plane and that's a flat plane. And see how it kind of changes? So if I color it, it's only going to color on that flat plane until I reach the other side. Now see, this is just on this plane. And see how it's not really going to that other plane. It's kind of stopping. That means there's a separate object right there in the 3D model. So you can do it like this too if you want. The easiest way, honestly, is to do a paint bucket. But let's go with triangle. Triangle is going to be the polygons. So as you see, when I rotate or when I place my cursor over, you can see the different polygons. So if I click on it, that's going to paint that polygon. And then I can click and drag, that's going to paint those polygons. Let's find, there's another polygon, there's another polygon, because 3D models are made up of polygons and triangles, especially STLs. Everything is triangulated in STLs. So there's a way that you can paint, you know, certain areas depending on how the model is built and really get some fine detail in there. See how I got a space in between there. So that's a different polygon layer, but maybe I don't want that layer colored that color. So then I can come in with a red and I can do those polygon layers until you reach the limit there. So that's the one thing that you have to kind of watch for is that limit area, and you won't know it until you really hit it of what that is. So you can really get some detail in there with either a mouse or a tablet pen. These things keep popping up for some reason. The next is height range. Height range is just like it sounds. So I'm going to take orange, and as you can see, there's kind of a white line there, and that shows the height range. So let's say I want orange on the bottom, and I want to go all the way up to this point. So from this point down, it's going to be orange. And let's say I want the other color to be yellow. So I grab that, I go back down. Now that's going to be yellow. Let's say I want this to be black. So then that fills in that area of black. So yeah, man, yeah, Ken, no problem at all, buddy. Appreciate you stopping by. So that's how you do the layers with the layer height, which is very quick to do, especially if you have separated models. So you can quickly do a layer height and change the color. So like this is the top layer, right? So I can click that, boom, changed. I can also come in and let's grab gray and let's make this gray down to this point. And then let's change this back to green. So you can see you can quickly do simple coloring that way. And that's using the height range. I personally don't use that a whole lot because the way that I design my models is and the way most models are designed, if you get them from good artists, is they're separated in a way where you can use a paint bucket and you can adjust this smart fill angle as high or as low as you want, and it will have a different effect on how it paints the model. So I'm going to paint, let's see here, let's get yellow. And you can see as I hover over certain areas that these are separate objects. So for instance, if I wanted to paint his pupils black, which they are in the cartoon, and let's see here, let's do, nope, we don't want that. So we will undo that. Oh, excuse me. I actually cut that out. So we'll get back in here and let's do his face yellow. And like I said, I don't have all the colors to actually do him correctly. So I'm just going to quickly just show some colors here. Let's do his hair black, maybe. And then these lines here, we'll do black. His shirt will make, I don't know, red. So see, I'm just simply clicking inside these areas that are already preset up from the 3D model and from the 3D artist. So obviously his skin is yellow. So I'm not really doing any painting. It's more of clicking. Let's do his boots black. And let's do this brown just for giggles. Let's give him green pants. So see now very quickly, let's see, this is part of his shirt and this is part of his pants. So very quickly I have colored this in. Now there's still a little area here. So there you go. So if you've ever used a vector program or anything like that, Photoshop, you know kind of how this works. The tools are very similar. Now, I can make this entire back plate a different color. So let's do that. And I'm just clicking and dragging to color these whole areas in. You can see how it switches to the different parts of the model. So on the edge, this is where you can kind of see how the model's split up. So I'm going to click and drag there. And you can see it just colored that part. So I'm going to click and drag, and then you have to rotate to make sure it got it all, because sometimes it will not. So you have to kind of really analyze how you're coloring to get it all in the right places. And you can always undo it if you mess something up. You can always start completely over by hitting erase painting. You can go here and you can see how you can paint with the left mouse button. You can erase with the shift plus left mouse button. So let's say that, oh, I didn't want this black. So I hit shift left mouse button and it turns it back to the default color. So we're just going to continue painting the edge. And then see this edge over here is not connected. So we will paint all this in. And again, I'm using a pretty high smart fill angle. If I lower this, it will paint even smaller pieces, depending on how the model is set up. So see, normally it would have grabbed, see how this is. So now that's just those two pieces. That's just those two pieces. Let me zoom in here. So since I lowered my angle, my smart fill angle to 5 instead of 28, see how it's doing the smaller pieces? But if I raise it back up to 20, now it's going to fill in those pieces. So that's how you color in different polygons based on the size. Now, not all models are going to be as simple as this as far as painting, and I'll show an example of that once we get this one kind of set up. So we're just going to quickly get in here, rotate it, make sure we didn't miss anything. Oh, see, we missed that right here. Okay. So now we'll return to the canvas, and you can see that Homer is ready to be multicolor printed with those colors that I currently have in my AMS. Now, when I switch colors out in the AMS, Bambu Labs will automatically, if you use bamboo filament, they have an RFID tag built into the spools. So if I put in, let's say, blue in slot 3, and I go to my filament and I do a resync, see how this change, I actually put blue in slot 4, sorry. But you can see how it automatically changed the color of his pants. So anything that was green that was in slot 4 to begin with, if I say, well, I don't want him to have green pants, I want him to have blue pants, I just load in blue in the AMS slot that I want, and it automatically changes it. So before his pants were green, now they're blue. Now my AMS is updated, and these are the current colors I currently have in the printer. So that's a really good way to quickly change colors. A lot of times you'll download a model that may have been painted with an AMS, and let's say there's 4 colors. And on my end, I may have designed the model and my colors may be slot 1 is black, slot 2 is white, slot 3 is green, slot 4 is blue. But on your printer, you may have different colors in those slots. So when you bring in a model and you update your filament, you sync the filaments, it will automatically recolor based on your filament settings and what filament you have in what slots. So if you bring in a model and let's say it's already colored, and then I have different colors in here than what you have, when you resync this to your colors and your printer and your AMS, it will automatically switch all these colors. So that is one thing you kind of have to watch out for. And you will have to recolor based on your AMS filament spools and what slots they're in. The way around that is if you have, let's say you have 4 colors and your first 4 colors are black, white, tan, and blue, just like mine, okay? But the model you bring in has blue, pink, red, and green. And those are the colors that are already designed for that model, and you want to keep those colors. So you have 2 options. You can repaint the model, or you simply change your colors to the exact same that the file calls for. So for instance, if the file calls for yellow in slot 1, I would physically remove the black from slot 1 and put the yellow in slot 1. And you're doing this physically on your AMS system, whether it be the A1 Mini, the A1, the P1S, or the X1 Carbon. You physically move those spool colors and filament colors to the slots corresponding with the file. Or you can do it the hard way, and you just make sure that you have the same colors that the file calls for, and you go in and you paint it up. You just go in here and you start coloring. And again, the paint bucket is usually the fastest way to do this, but that is only if the model is set up correctly. So let's give her, I don't know, red pearls and a blue dress. Let's go with black shoes. Yellow skin. And let's say I want this entire dress to be blue. So I'm just coloring in just the dress parts. Okay, that looks good. There's that. Oh, there's that dress part. We want to undo that. And see, I accidentally hit the blue on the black. So, and then we're going to have this black back here, back here, back here, there and there. So you can see how quickly I can do this if the model's set up correctly. So we want all these to be yellow maybe for her skin. We want this to continue red. Same with this. So that's how quickly you can do it. And like I said, you can adjust your smart fill angle in order to match up to the polygon. So if you want to do a little bit finer detail, for instance, let's zoom in here, and let's say I want different colors on here. So I'm going to lower, and this is with the paint bucket, I'm going to lower my smart fill angle, and I'm going to come in here and I want these two squares blue. I want these to be red. See how I'm just coloring in those? I want these to be brown or tan. So I can quickly multicolor something if I want. Now, obviously, that's not probably what somebody would do because that's not realistic to the model. But again, you see how it's only filling in these. If I raise my smart fill angle back up to 22 or so, now I can do bigger pieces. So that gives you just a quick kind of overview of using the paint bucket. And this is on models that are pretty much set up for it already. And you really won't know until you bring in your model and start painting how the model's kind of set up. And then you'll be able to see, okay, well, these are, set up pretty easily because these are designed to be magnets, fridge magnets. And so they're very simplistic 3D models. They're basically extruded straight up. So that's why it's a little bit easier to paint these than others. So see, like this will be black here on the eyelash. And then you have yellow there, her eye is white. And now we're done. So now we've just painted her too. And you can, again, change the colors. So, if I physically swap my number 4 color from blue to red and I refresh, then her dress would become red. And anything that's red would become whatever color I put in the number 5 slot. So that's a quick way to color that type of 3D model. So let's get into something a little bit more complex. I do not want to save that. So let's bring in a more complex model here. So this is that little creature I showed you in the other camera here. Bear with me for a second and I'll grab it. So I'm going to switch to my other camera so you can see this. So we're getting ready to paint this little guy. So this little guy is a lot more complex than the Simpson characters we were just looking at that are basically extruded shapes like this. So it's going to be very more time consuming and complicated to paint something like this. Again, it also depends on how the artist designed the model. So let's and hopefully y'all can still hear me. Can you still hear me, Gap? I think it's Gap who's watching still. Might be a delay. Hopefully you can still hear me here. Let me double check my audio here. Yep, it looks like it's still going green. So, all right. So this is a more complicated model. As you can see, there's lots of crevices and some parts are separated because it's a flexi model. So on this side, I have already painted him. And what's nice about the way this is designed is if I go in here and I go in here at the paint bucket and I have the smart fill turned up to 30 or so, let's say I want his feet, I don't know, let's say I want them blue. So with the smart fill turned up, I can turn his entire, whatever was orange, almost blue. And let's say I want his body to be red. So I can come in here and see how quickly you can change the colors if they're already pre-painted. Because it's just like Illustrator. It's going to adjust those colors based on the fill. So if they're all white or whatever, then you're going to have to play with it. But if it's already set up in a color, it's going to fill in that color. And then you may have to go in there and change some of it just a little bit because they're separated objects. But that kind of gives you an idea of how quickly you can paint something that's already been painted. So let's go into this one that has not been painted, and let's see how that reacts. So currently it is black. I'm going to switch the body to a gray, and I have my smart fill angle turned up. So it looks like it did pretty much most of the body here. Let's do the tails, and let's just drag it all the way through. Let's do the legs. Now see, it's also coloring the feet, which I don't want. So, and it didn't catch that area there. So on the feet, let's make them orange, but let's lower our smart angle down to 16 and see how it grabs it. Okay, see how it grabbed just the hand and just the foot? But see, when I click on that, it colors the whole leg, right? So let's undo that. We only want this part to be orange. So let's lower our smart fill angle. And let's say we just want that part. Again, it's completely subjective and up to you, but you can see how the smart fill angle really affects how it fills stuff in. Now on something like this, the way that this model is built is this is all one flat surface. So you have a couple options here. And as you can see, it didn't fill in completely these areas. So there's a couple different ways you can do that. You can go in with the triangle tool and you can raise this and you can fill those in like so manually. Let's undo that. You can go in with the circle tool, which again will paint everything that is in that area. So let's undo that. You can go in with the sphere tool that will paint only the edges. So see how it only did that edge, but it left that piece there. And then see how it's kind of highlighting that. So I can lower this pin size down and get just that piece. You can turn these into models. I'm not sure what you mean. Explain on that a little bit more if you can. So now we've painted the feet and we just go around and check it. You always check your models because you'll get little areas in here like this. Here's another example of the sphere tool and what it does. So you see all these little ridges and crevices that are different. Those are on different planes on the 3D model. So if I take this orange and I paint here, and then I go up to this crevice, see how it's not painting this other right here, even though I'm right up against it. Oh, let me undo that. Let's get this correct here. So let's do it this way. See how I can paint almost right along that crevice without getting the other piece painted? So then you can go in and you can fine tune it even more if you want. See how that pretty much picked up all that? And then I can just come in here and use the triangle tool to maybe get it a little bit better. If that doesn't work, then you can come in here and you can lower your reset direction, and we'll just grab that one. And then see, there's still a little piece right here. So we're going to grab that, and it fills it in. So that's how you paint a little bit more complicated model. And just like before, once an area is painted, you can quickly switch it to a different color by using the paint bucket. And then see how it left all these little edges in here? Maybe I wanted that filled more. So I'm just going to raise this. Let's try it again. That's a lot better. And then you just keep looking at your model. You just keep rotating it and going in here and filling in the colors. And let's make this white. Let's do the entire tail, bottom of the tail white. And then let's make him kind of like a raccoon here. Now these links in the center, we want those to be black as well. And let's see, what do we do here? We hit this one too hard. And let's go ahead and make his body black. Let's make his legs white. So you can see how quickly you can do this if the model's done right. Now here's a good example. See how I painted that white, but there's still that orange left over from what we did before. So there's several different ways you can do that. You can go back to your white and you can fill in those areas. You can also still see that there's a little bit of black, a little bit of orange. So you can take your sphere and color those in. And again, this is with a mouse. You can do it with a tablet. Let me grab my pen. And it's the same concept. You're just coloring in polygons. Okay. So color these in. And hopefully you get that kind of idea. The other way that you can do it is, let's find a piece that still has some areas. Okay, so like this arm here, this has some areas still. So let's grab the paint bucket, let's raise it up to 49, and let's make this beige. So now you can really see the other areas, and you can just click and drag with the paint bucket over those areas that are highlighted in white. Those are unpainted, not the same color areas. So I'm just clicking and holding down and dragging, and it'll pick up most of it. If it doesn't pick up some of it, you come in here with your sphere and paint it in. So like these, it didn't pick up these. And you don't have to get every single polygon. But if you notice when you go to slice this, and there is colors in there that are not part of your model, So let's say I just wanted beige, red, black, and orange. If I go to slice this, it's probably going to have more colors than that. So let's see what happens here. So yeah, it has black, white, gray, red, orange, tan. So we know we have tan in the model. We know we have white in the model. We know we have black. We know we have orange. And we know we have red. Where's the gray coming in at? Right here. We didn't paint that part. See how that's gray right there? So we will fix that by going back to prepare, back into the paint bucket, and we're going to make that white. Okay, we're going to make this arm white. Make sure it got most of it, if not all of it. So now, and we're going to make this black. And to move around in here, you use your hold down your left mouse button and it will rotate as long as you're not clicking on the model. The moment you click on the model, you're going to be painting. So you got to be careful with that. To zoom in and zoom out, it's the scroll wheel. And to pan, it's putting the cursor anywhere on the screen, holding down the scroll wheel and moving. If you're using a pen or a tablet, it's the same way. You hold your pen on that canvas and you can rotate. And then there's other tools right here. So you can do different views. So you can do Alt and it will paint, so on and so forth. So this is still rotating the model. You can hold down Command and it'll still rotate it. You can hold down Shift, it'll still rotate it. So zoom in, I believe, is Command plus, but that doesn't seem to be working. So just use your mouse, even if you have unless you have your tablet set up with the certain key functions and key mappings. That would be the easiest way to accomplish that. So now that we've changed those colors, remember before we had gray in there. So if we slice this again, it should only have the colors that we've painted, unless you missed something somewhere. If you missed a little piece of red or whatever, it's going to pick that up. So we have red in here somewhere. Because see, it's going to print black, white, gray, orange, and red. So where is the red in this? Sometimes you can see it in this view. It looks like it is a top color. And the reason I say that is you can see the red here on the purge tower. So where is the red? You can also use this layer view and it will show you how it builds the model. Now see, there's red right there. Just a tiny bit. It isn't much. It's not even a gram of red, but it's there. So let's fix that. Let's go into our paint bucket. Let's change all this to white just to make sure we got it. Then we'll change it back to black. Change this bottom part to white. So we're going to lower our smart fill angle. And let's look at this a little bit closer to make sure that we got the red out. Looks like we may have. So slice it again. Excuse me. And then we check to see if red's still showing up. If it is, then we try it again. Red is still showing up. But is it showing up in the area we had it before? Right in there. So that's what's called an interior polygon, and you may not be able to paint that. So, but it's not using hardly anything. And actually, all it's doing is it's not putting any in the model, because this column here is how many grams of each color filament's going into the model. You can see 0.0 grams. It's flushing the red for some reason. It's putting red on the purge tower, and it's putting a gram total of red in there. But it may not actually be putting it in the model because the model shows 0 grams. There are ways around that. So obviously you can take red out. You can go back into your paint. You can erase all painting, and then you can start again. So let's say I want this gray. I'm just going to do this real quickly, because hopefully you get the kind of the gist of it by now. We're going to do this. Let's do this white. Let's do his arms white. Let's do his feet. We're going to lower this back down. Do his feet orange. And see, that one needs to be lower because it still catches. So we're going to lower this down from 17 to 14. And there we got the feet. So let's make the bottom side all black. And that's the quick and dirty version. So now let's see if there's any red in there. Because remember, we erased all painting and then we repainted it. And now there's no red in there. It's only those 4 or 5 colors that we're using. So that's how you do that. We can open up a new model. Let's go to home. Let's bring in a droid. No, we don't want to save that. So here's another way that you can do it with painting. So these are all grouped. You can go, if the model is built into different models or separated into different parts, you can color it that way. One way you can do that is you can split into objects. So as you can see, it erased all the painting. So now this is a separate object. This is a separate object. This is a separate object. So let's say I want that red. So now that entire arm is red. Now I can go in here and I can still paint the different panels. So let's say I want this panel white, and I can just come in here and paint all these areas that I want that color. And we're going to make this whole back side white. Let's zoom in here. We want these edges white. We want this gray. We want this black. We want those little red areas black. And you remember, all these are 3D models, so you have to make sure that all your faces, all your triangles, your polys, because see, there's going to be red on this side. Oh. So that's how you, and I'm just using the paint bucket because that's the quickest way. You can use other tools if you like, but I'm just using the paint bucket on these particular models because it's a lot quicker. So see, I accidentally recolored that again. But see how I'm going around and grabbing all these edges? And then I'm looking at the model. From all the different angles. And now I can move on to this part here. So let's make this gray, gray, gray. Let's make this area gray, this gray. And let's do something a little different on here. Let's do this green. Just for giggles. So you can kind of see how that would change the look of something. And then let's do this black up here. See, I'm just clicking and dragging over these different areas to color them in. It's not going to get all of them because we can't see the back side. So we're going to have to rotate, and now you can see the back side. So it does take some time to color in these models. And keep in mind, the more colors you add and the more height differences there are, the longer it's going to take to print. That is one thing you really have to keep in mind. So let's make this all black here, and I will show you the difference in speed of printing before and after we painted a leg here. All right, so let's keep that red just for the sake of it. So we have a leg here, and I'm going to put this on a different plate so we get a more accurate time to print. I'm going to put the colored one that we just painted on a different plate. So the regular one, if you just print it in one color, it's going to take 17 minutes to print that piece. To print this piece right here, it's 17 minutes, okay? Get rid of these. So that is all one color, 17 minutes. To print the multicolor leg that we went in and physically painted with different heights, with different colors, so on and so forth, that's going to take 2 hours and 30 minutes to print that. Same leg, same size, just multicolor versus one color. 17 minutes, 2 hours and 30 minutes. It's going to cost 12 cents to print this leg. That's going to use 4.9 grams in all white. This is going to cost 89 cents to print the multicolor leg. It's going to do 75 filament swaps and 35 grams of filament versus 4 grams of filament. So multicolor prints do take longer. They increase time. They use up more filament because you have filament swaps. So that's something you got to keep in mind if you're going to go crazy and start painting 3,000 different colors or 16 different colors. The more colors you add and the more height difference there is. So this is all white, right? And then it changes to black. This is all white, then it changes to black, and then it changes to gray. This one is white, changes to gray, changes to green, changes to green, changes back to gray. So you can see how the printer is going to do it by dragging this up and down. So you can see it starts right here at all white. Then layer 2, you use white, black, and red. Layer 3, white, black, and red. So it's changing 3 times. There's another 3 times, another 3 times, another 3 times. And it's just going to keep building up those layers and colors until you get up to here. Now you're swapping in another color. So you can see how that affects the print time, the filament swaps, the filament usage. So that was just a real quick, kind of quick and dirty showing of how this works in Bambu Studio. Like I said, you can have real simple models that it doesn't take a lot of time on. So let's go back to that Simpsons model here if I can find it. Well, let's do this one if it'll bring it up. Okay, so we have a West Virginia ornament. Okay, so if I slice that, it's going to take 38 minutes to print one ornament that size. 2 filament changes. You have the blue and you have the gold. Okay, now let's do this and let's clone it to that bed. And we are going to erase all painting, and we're going to make it one color. So let's just make it red. So a single color is going to take 34 minutes, and it's going to use 19 grams of filament. It's going to cost you 50 cents basically. But you switch to this one, it's going to be 53 cents, 2 filament swaps, and 21 grams. And it's going to take 38 minutes to do that one. So it's going to take you a little bit longer, about 4 more minutes, and roughly 3 more grams of filament. Now, if you go in here and you go crazy, so now let's do this, and I will show you another. I'll show you exactly how the filament, the colors changes affects the print time. So let's go in here and let's say, hey, it's Christmas time. I want to put in some stripes or something. I'm just going to do this real quick and dirty. Okay, so now we've added another color. Now let's go in here and let's add brown in here. Let's add brown here and here, here and here. Again, this is just for an example. So now let's slice that plate. So one color, 34 minutes, 19 grams of filament. 2 color, 38 minutes, 20 grams of filament, 21 grams of filament. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 colors. It's going to take an hour and 42 minutes. It's going to have 33 filament swaps, and it's going to be 32 grams of filament. So you increased your time, you increased your cost, you increased your filament usage, and you increased your waste, because it's going to waste 10 grams of filament almost right here doing all those swaps. You can also play with that a tiny bit if you want. So you go back into prepare, you go to flushing volumes. I have it at a 0.65 flushing multiplier. I'm going to hit recalculate. And as you can see on the gray, if we were using the gray color, it says that there's not enough flushing taking place. You're probably going to get some color bleed. So let's bump this up to 0.67 and recalculate. Still not enough. Let's do 6.9. Recalculate. Still not enough. Let's do 7.5. Still not enough. 7.8. Getting closer. Pardon from my dog there. Finn, come here. So we're getting closer. It's still iffy on if it's going to flush it correctly. Let's do 8-8. Now we're all in the black, so we shouldn't have any bleed. So that's how you fix that. But since we're not using gray at all in this, it doesn't really matter. So we can drop this back down to 0.65. Let me recalculate that, because we're not using gray at all. So that doesn't really matter. We're only using yellow, red, blue, and brown. On this one, we're only using red. On this one, we're only using yellow and blue. So there's different things that you can do to limit the amount of waste, to color in different areas using the several different tools at your disposal in the paint area. So you can do it with the paint bucket, which is easy if the model is set up correctly. So we can change this to red. We can change this to green. And we can change even the edges to different colors if we wanted to. But keep in mind, that's going to produce more waste, more filament changes, and therefore more time. So you can go hog wild on these things and make them look like, you know, a 5-year-old went to finger paint town and you know, just had at it. Or you can make them more realistic by going in and painting just certain areas and just trying to get it, you know, where you want it. So like right there, we have blue, we got red, we got green, we got black, we got yellow. So then you can undo all that by hitting Control Z or Command Z on Mac, and you're back to normal. Now, here's one interesting thing that you will notice if you do multicolor and you perhaps need more than one, print more than one. Why? This is why. If I do just one ornament, it's going to take 38 minutes and 48 seconds. It's going to change the filaments twice, and it's going to use 21.08 grams of filament, and it's going to waste 55 grams plus 1.17 grams for the purge tower. I'm going to, let's say, okay, I'm going to print 4 of these. Even if you don't need 4 of them, look at the difference. You're still doing 2 filament changes. You're still doing the same amount of flushed filament, 0.5 grams. You're still doing the same amount of filament in the purge tower, 1.17 grams. It is going to take a little bit longer to do because you're printing more material. But because you're printing the same object and the same colors, you're not using that much more filament. So you're using 21 grams for 1. You're going to use 78 grams for 4. 38 minutes for 1, or an hour and 58 minutes for 4. So if you can print with the same colors and the same model, do it, because you're going to save time and filament and wasted filament on the purge tower and on the flushing. So fill that bed up as much as you can, or, you know, print just 1 or 2. Maybe that's a good example. Instead of using 4, let's just do 2. Okay, so we have 1. Again, 38 minutes, 2 color changes, 21 total grams of filament with basically 2 grams of filament wasted. Now we're going to get 2 of them in an hour with 40 grams of filament total and the same amount of waste, and still only 2 filament changes. So you get double or triple or quadruple if you can fit it on the plate. Yes, it's going to take longer, but you're going to waste less filament because you're getting more objects for the amount of filament that you're getting, if that makes sense. Okay. So definitely take that into account when you're working with an AMS in Bambu Labs. And again, you can play with these numbers a little bit. You could recalculate. You could put this up to 1, let's say, because this was at 0.65. So all my numbers was based on 0.65. So now let's do numbers based on 1. Now we've gone up a little bit in time and just a tiny bit in filament. Again, you're using double the filament, but you're getting 2 and you're not wasting double the filament, if that makes sense. So 53 cents versus $1, and you get 2 of them. Already printed, ready to go, shipped to a client. And I don't know how accurate these costs are because of the fact you can go in here and you can adjust those costs based on what your spools cost. So, you know, if you get your spools on sale, if you buy in bulk, your cost can be way less than what this shows over here. This is just a guideline. It's not an exact down to the penny cost analysis of what these 3D prints are going to take. You also have to take into machine time, wear and tear on your nozzle, wear and tear on your belts, wear and tear on the build plates, wear and tear on the extruder. There's a lot of different things that go into pricing these 3D prints. So when you see this number, oh, I can get 2 ornaments for $1. Why is he charging $10 an ornament? Because this is not taking into account the printer time. It's not taking into account my time. It's not taking into account the wear and tear on the printer, the nozzle, the feeders, the AMS system, the PTFE tubes, everything that goes into 3D printing, that is not taken into account. This is only taking into account, and not always accurately, the amount of filament that you're using. It's not taken into account anything else. Setup time, paint time, you know, color changing, that sort of thing. It's not taking any of that into account. So let's say you work at McDonald's, you're making $15 an hour. Right there is $15 just in the time it's going to take to print it. Are you really going to charge $1 for that if it you know took an hour? No, you're going to charge $16, right? Maybe even more. So that's where the pricing changes a little bit. Hey, Eben, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. So there's a couple different examples of how to paint models. A little bit more of an explanation of costs, how different color changes can drastically affect not only print time, but the filament swaps, the amount of waste that is going into it. And again, on this example, you have 2 filament changes for 1 ornament, and it's going to take 21.37 grams with basically 2 grams wasted, and you only get 1 ornament. Or you can do 2 ornaments, you have the exact same waste, and it's going to take 40 grams, so double the filament, but the exact same waste, and you're getting 2 items for literally 30 minutes more. So that kind of shows the difference on how that works. So let's go back to the BD. So again, if your model's already colored and you have an AMS system or a multicolor system, then for instance, this one is basically 4 colors. So I could recolor this if I wanted. I can come in with my paint bucket. I can make the reds green. And again, you have to zoom in look at all the different areas and click or use a Huron tablet or a Wacom tablet to color these in. Right now I'm just using the mouse because these are already set up and it's very quick to change the colors. And you can come in here and you can get super detailed. Let's say I wanted to, I don't know, on the base of him, I wanted to write something, let's say. So let me get my pen out and we can write Spice Runners. So now that will print Spice Runners on the bottom of that in black. It will take a lot longer to print, but it will do it. So you can come in there and you can customize these how any way you want. That's what's nice about it. You want to get into a little bit more detail. Let's say I wanted a pattern like this, and I'm just following the polygons that are already on the model. So let's say I wanted this red, this one, and this one, and this one, and there isn't one there. So that may not really work, but that gives you an idea of how you can quickly change stuff. And again, if you bring in a model and it's already pre-colored, so for instance, I brought in this model. Let me see if I can back up all the way. There we go. And it was basically using white, gray, black, and red. So 4 colors. And then I come up here and I refresh. I may not have the same colors in my AMS. So see how that drastically changed it? Because these are the colors I have in my AMS. So I have a couple options. I can go in here and I can repaint these if I want. So I think this one was gray maybe. So I can come in here and I can paint this gray. This was black. So I come in here and paint that black. The other option is to, let me reload this so we get the original colors back. So these are the colors that the original artist intended. So if you have an AMS, the other option is to physically swap the filaments in your AMS for the slots that are listed here on the left side. So if I have black in slot 2 instead of slot 1, I physically take the black filament from slot 2, put it in slot 1. If I have red in slot 7 instead of slot 4, I physically take the red from slot 7, put it in slot 4. That way, when you resync and set up your AMS for the software to look at it, it has the same colors as what was originally intended, and it will all print just like the original artist intended it. Otherwise, you can go in, you can customize the colors the way you want. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of information on that. And if you have any questions, leave them in the chat. If you're watching this later, if you have any questions, leave it in the chat. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Once we reach 200 subscribers, there will be a giveaway. So I really hope that this kind of helped you understand a little bit on how to paint 3D models in Bambu Studio for an AMS system. And I hope you learned at least something about not only painting, but the costs and the time involved, not only in painting these models and getting them multicolor, but also how multicolor can drastically affect the time it takes to print a 3D model, and therefore the cost and the waste associated with that. So again, I thank you all for being here. And I hope you have a good Friday night. Please be sure to tune in to the Spice Runners Lounge tonight at 9 p.m. So about 45 minutes from now, Eben and crew will be Eben, Joel, Jeff, J2SO, and crew will be doing their Spice Runners Lounge Friday night gala. They have some fun drinking games. Scott Berry will be on there too. There'll be words of the night. Every time a word of the night is said or typed, everybody takes a drink. So some nights it can get really, really interesting. So be sure to definitely check them out because they are a great group. On Sunday nights, we have Rogue 5 Cantina. And these are mainly Star Wars channels. They do talk about other stuff, but it's mainly Star Wars. So be sure to check them out on Sunday nights, and on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. You have the Hyperdrive with George Medina, Ralph, Frankie, great group of guys. I think Flex was on there last time. So definitely check them out. If you want to learn more about Utinni Designs, here's the website for Utinni Designs. You can pick up some 3D prints. If you want to support Utinni Designs, you can become a Patreon member, either paid or free. Paid obviously gets you a little bit more stuff. I'm constantly adding to that as I can. That's also where you go to get commercial licenses to 3D print and sell commercially any of the models that I've created, that I've uploaded to Maker World, and there are some exclusive models that are only available to Patreons and not anybody else. If you want some cool swag, check out the Utinni Designs swag and merch shop. Just type in utinnidesigns.com and there will be a link there. You can click on that, go get you some hats, some shirts, some desk mats. I'm going to be designing some more of those soon. So with that being said, thank you everybody for tuning in, and I hope you have a good Friday night. Check out the Spice Runners, and until next time, may the Force be with you.
Utinni!